Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that. Ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. I believe everyone has a fire inside them, a powerful purpose, a story waiting to be told, and everyone can uncover and unleash this power. Every day you have the choice to either let your experiences shape you or take control and use your experiences to shape the world around you. You were made to experience happiness, freedom, joy, purpose, love, passion, and abundance. Disrupt the status quo, think for yourself, and join forces with those around you doing the same. Join me for thought-provoking conversations along with the strategies needed in order to help you ignite your spark within. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today, I'm running a Solocast titled Change, the Missing Ingredient. It's no secret that change is one of the hardest things, not only to manage and accept by us humans, but also to induce and begin the course of change, right? We are aware that change is constant. It is inevitable. It is the only thing that is truly certain in life. If you look around us, there is not one single thing that is stagnant in life when it's happening organically. Now, we can either accept this and embrace it and then we can learn, what needs to go, what needs to come in, and what we need to manage. But this change is happening regardless, whether we want it to or like it to or not. The problem comes in where, and I'm seeing this on an individual level and also a collective humanity level, when change is needed and either one of two things happens. Change is instigated based on something outside of our control, and which sends us into a spiral of fear and anxiety and uncertainty, or we wish to create a change in our life and we're having trouble doing so. And we even have taken steps to have someone help us create this change and induce this change, and we're not finding the results to be fruitful. We can use a simple example of weight loss, where we've hired a coach or we've hired a trainer to help us create this change of, I hate the term, but weight loss. I don't like the term weight loss because in your brain, mentally, it's proven that if you experience a loss, this is a negative connotation to it. This has a negative relationship to you in your subconscious brain. So immediately us saying something like weight loss, we're going to have a defensive mechanism up immediately, and change is going to become harder. We can title that something different. We can title that, pursuit of health. We can title it, gaining confidence, whatever you want to call it. My brain's not thinking of great examples right now, but we have to be careful about A, how we're communicating this change to ourselves, and then B, getting to the deeper why. Now, there's levels to this. I've done interviews on change before, but ultimately it comes down to a couple of key and fundamental points, which I'm going to go forward through. And then finally, the missing ingredient. And that's where this podcast truly was intended to go, is this missing ingredient. And it's something that I think you might not be expecting, but it is hopeful, wink, wink, and very exciting. So let's go through the topic of change. There's two types of change. There's the change that happens around us that can either be in our perception, good or bad. If you ask somebody if they like surprises, then they would say, yeah, I love surprises. But that's not true, because change technically is a surprise. It's just it just might not be the surprise that you want. And so we deem that as bad change or negative change or scary change, or you put the title to it. It might not even have a title in your brain. You just know what emotion is associated with that. So let's take COVID, right? The world, humanity needed a change. And so we introduce COVID was really the forefront catalyst to this. Now, there were lots of catalysts that were happening behind the scenes, but COVID, to our human knowledge and awareness, was the catalyst that said, change is happening, change is on the horizon, and it freaked everyone out. Because why? Because we weren't prepared for it. It was something that we thought we didn't need, or it was something that we didn't like because it disrupted our comfortable life. So change actually disrupts your peace when it is something that takes you outside of your comfort zone. Change is something that disrupts your peace only if it takes you out of your comfort zone and you weren't expecting it. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Change is something that disrupts your peace when it takes you outside of your comfort zone and you weren't expecting it. Okay, this is the only time that change is not welcomed by us humans. And then there's another type of change when change happens outside of our control and it is good. Like let's give the example of a promotion or a relationship, a new relationship. This is a change. Change excites us when it is giving us something that we deep down wanted, and that's apparent. So change excites us when it's giving us something that we think that we want, and that's apparent. One more time with that one. Change excites us when it's giving us something that we truly desire, and that's apparent. Okay, those are two types of change. The only difference here is our perception and our blueprint for life. So if I have a blueprint that says, I want a life with a thriving relationship, a career that pays my bills, and where I can go travel on the weekends, and I have a home with a white picket fence and 2 kids. Okay. Now we're developing this blueprint, this picture for all. Now our brain becomes aware of all the things that could happen or that could shift or that could change in the direction to give us that picture, to give us that dream, that desire, that craving that we have. So any change that comes into our life that directly associates us to moving towards that picture is going to be great change for us. It's going to be good change. If that happened, if those things that you're pointing as relevant to getting you towards that picture happened to me, who does not have that blueprint, like getting pregnant unexpectedly, and I don't have the concept of having kids, or I don't have that's not my blueprint. And I'm not saying that is me. I'm just using myself as an example. But if that happened to me, if those circumstances happened to me, this would be bad. I would feel stressed. I would feel scared. I would feel maybe even depressed or angry. This change would not be good for me because of my perception that now where it's moving you towards your blueprint. For me, that's taking me away from my blueprint. Again, the only difference is perception. So we don't have problems. Problems, let me rephrase it this way. Let's backtrack one step. If all things God created and all things God created were good, then problems don't truly exist, because God doesn't create problems. God creates all things good. We create problems by our perception and our ingestion and our interpretation of the events that happen in our lives, i.e., change. So if we can sit back, there's secret number one. All change is good change. All change is good change. One more time. All change is good change. The key, the secret, the answer lies in you and how you're able to find what that change is either pushing you towards or protecting you from. All change is good change. You get to decide, you get to assign the meaning. And if you can't find it, I promise you, if you start asking questions, you will find it. How many times have you looked back on your life at circumstances that at the time you thought your world was crashing down, everything was crumbling down around you, you were scared, you were hurting, only to come out the other side, look back on that time and say, gosh, now I see why I went through that. It was all meant to get me here, which, if we're being mindful, are usually steps closer to wherever it is your destiny is. We all have a destiny. That's another topic for another podcast, which would probably be an hour long. We all have a destiny, and our souls will reach it eventually. It just depends on if we're going to heed that call now or next time or later, but it's up to us ultimately. So you can choose the amount of misery you go through simply based on your ability to become aware. Awareness is key here. Awareness of what's going on inside of you, what is going on outside of you, and then how to connect the two and how to then shift yourself in terms of the new change that is happening. Everything is dynamic. It's going to require you to bob, to weave, to duck, to jump. When change becomes suffering is when we as humans become so rigid. We become so rigid and glued to our comfortable, normal, known, certain, in some ways, supplementary or even drug way of living. And I say drug not as an actual drug, but sometimes the way of our living is an actual drug because you don't even realize how hooked you are on your certain habits that are holding you back because they are releasing and allowing an alchemy of your brain, which is another word for a chemical reaction that happens in your brain that literally gets you hooked to whatever it is you're doing. This could be sex. This could be social media. This could be work. This could be helping people. Yes, helping people can be a drug and you're addicted to it. And this way, this rigid addiction of helping or taking or hurting is not allowing you to see the fruit of the changes that are happening around you. So really what this comes down to is a healthy unattachment. I've talked about attachments before. I've talked about cords before. This is not a courting situation. This is an unattachment situation. This is a become unattached healthily to the obligations of or pursuit of a specifically defined blueprint or vision or way that things have to be in order for you to be happy. Let me say that again. Become unattached to, healthily unattached to the obligations or the people or the specifically defined vision or blueprint that you have, that circumstances need to be a certain way in order for you to be happy. This isn't to say, don't create the goal, don't create the vision, don't have the relationships, don't have the things. It's not to say any of that, because we're not called to live a life of boring mediocrity and disconnection, or a visionless life. Without a vision, the people will perish. We've heard this so many times in the grand book called the Bible. But that's not to say don't have that vision. But don't sell your soul to it. And also allow yourself to change the approach. Don't change the vision if that vision is truly aligned with your highest soul and your destiny and what God has called on your life. But be flexible in your approach, because I can't tell you how many times I've had a vision that I felt so convicted and called into by spirit, by the universe, by God himself. I've been called towards this vision, and immediately when I commit to, and it's almost like I signed this contract, like, okay, all right, send it, send the goal, send the path, send the assignment to me, God, and I will do it. And when I say yes, then all of a sudden, all these things start to change. Some things start to crumble. I get sent into chaos. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not what I had in mind. This is not what I signed up for. But through that chaos, it almost feels like a detour. To us humans, it feels like a detour. But we got to understand that the path to that is almost never linear. And it's definitely never what we think it is. We just think it's so easy. Here's my vision. Now we're just going to go out and do these things. I'm going to have sleepless nights. I'm going to grind away. I'm going to work at this business. I'm going to boom, 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 boom. I'm going to do all these things that I'm checking off the boxes of these tasks that humans say is what's required for a successful life in this area of pursuit. And yet, God always has a different idea for that. Because what it comes down to is, if there's a change that you're seeking, let's not ask ourselves, what do I need to do to get to that change? We'll come back to the weight loss example. What do I need to do to lose this amount of weight? The question should be, well, what am I truly seeking? I'm not seeking weight loss. I'm seeking confidence. Why do I want confidence? Because I want to show up better in my marriage. Okay, so you want deeper connections, and you don't feel like you're capable of that because you're not confident enough in yourself. That is going to be something that ignites your spark within you. Yeah, I had to do the plug. That is something that ignites your spark enough to move you towards that. And then the second part is asking yourself, not what do I need to do, but what are the qualities? What are the disciplines? What are the skills that I am going to need for said pursuit? Taking a big example, we could say leader. I want to be the leader of $1 million company. Well, okay, so I can sit there and say, well, oh my gosh, I have to make $1 million now, and I need to hire people, and marketing. I'm going to need marketing. Oh my God, this is going to be sleepless nights, and I need to study about business. Or we can say, and this is what God does, and this is why he thrusts you into cataclysmic moments of pain, perceived pain, or challenge, or obstacle that is going to force you almost to acquire the skills and the tools needed in order for you to be that person. If it's weight loss, we're going to go into tempting situations where social pressure is going to tell you, drink this, eat this. Oh my gosh, what are you on a diet? It's just one bite. It's just one drink. And you're going to have two options in that moment. You can say, yeah, they're right. It's just one bite. I mean, I've been doing so good all week. So what's this one bite going to kill me? What's this one drink going to kill me? Or you only live once. I want to join this in moment with my friends and they're all drinking and I'm just living in the moment. That's going to lead you down a road though of diminishing your spirit, because now that you've said, I want to lose weight because I want confidence to improve my relationships and connect deeper. And I can only do that when I have more confidence. Now that you've said that, and then you go and take an action that is directly contradictory to that, you've just taken a chip at your own confidence. So you're not neutral at all. Not only did you not move your needle forward, you didn't even stay neutral. You took a chip off the block. And that's going to cause you more dis-ease internally, because one of our biggest needs as humans is to be congruent with who we say and think that we are. So I know I'm getting deep on this one, guys. Just follow along. If this is resonating with you, please just shoot a comment or something if this is resonating. So in that moment, though, you do have one more option. You've got one more option. And the reason that you're there in the first place is because in order to get you towards said goal of health or weight loss or confidence, is because that situation is going to require a level of discipline, conviction, and solidity in who you are, where you're going, and then resisting that temptation. Resisting the very temptation and situation that in the past would have caused you, it would have caused you the fruit of exactly where you're at right now. See, those actions are the reason you're at where you're at right now. And you can't get out of where you are right now and towards where you want to go unless you build the skills, the mindset, the strength that is required to get you there. And here's where it comes back to the journey, not the outcome. You're after the weight loss. What you're really after is the confidence and the deeper connection. And what's going to get you there is strength, resilience, being able to say no, discipline, maybe even a change in social circle, because to me, my friends wouldn't be trying to convince me to eat and drink things that they knew weren't aligned with my health and my priorities and my values. So that's your first red flag there. But my point is that when we set out on a path of any change, no matter how big or how small, immediately once you've said yes to that, you're going to be thrust into a situation where you will be called to use, or in this case, build the skills necessary to get you there. Now we look at that as sabotage. Why is God doing this to me? Why right when I tried to make this change, am I, did I get hammered with all of these, social situations that now I have to say no to, or life just gets busy and meal prepping is so hard, or life gets busy and now my workouts are taking a hit. Why me? And then this victim mentality creeps in. And what does victim mentality do? Well, now all you're going to want to do is comfort yourself. And comfort is the enemy to change. So, okay, we went down a rabbit hole there. Two types of change that's thrust upon us, and change we want to induce ourselves. The block the roadblock to all of these versions of change really happens in the mind, guys. It really happens in the mind. So you're live with me today as we're grinding on this way. So, two sides of change. What stands in the way of change? Resistance, always resistance. And the only reason that we would not change, well, let's rephrase that to a positive. The point of change happens when the pain is big enough that staying the same is more painful than the potential discomfort of making the change. So that would be called rock bottom. And rock bottom looks so different for every single person. Rock bottom is not a, oh, this person's going to have to lose everything. Sometimes that rock bottom is simply, I've had clients walk into my office and say, you know what rock bottom was for me? When I couldn't reach down to tie my own shoes because my stomach got in the way. Or in spirituality where, you know what rock bottom was for me? When I had a pulmonary embolism because I was so stressed. I knew right then in that moment, I had to make a change. And they do. There's no looking back from that point. Now, something that can really hinder not only our ability to begin the pursuit of change, but what's even worse is that this thing we call programmability or being programmed. I know no one likes to hear, you're programmed because then you feel like you're what's the word? I'm brainwashed. You're brainwashed. But here's the reality. All of us are programmed from the time we pop out of the womb. We're being programmed in some way, some deeper than others and some way darker than others. My case being the government being the darkest form of programming that there is. But here's the thing. All of us are programmed from a very young age from whom? Our parents. Our parents are programming us from the time we are from the ages of 6 to 11. Look this up. This is fact. From the ages of 6 to 11 is when we are most programmable, if that's a word. We are the most highly receptive to fixed ideas. And these fixed ideas become fixed in multiple ways. Here are a few. It comes from an authority figure, mom, dad, or in the collective humanity, president, governor, anybody in government or social media influencer, somebody who's our role model, singer, athlete. So the source of the influence comes from an authority figure. This is one way we maintain or we adopt fixed ideas, which is another way of saying programmed. And these fixed ideas become our beliefs. When things become a belief, we will literally operate our life out of this belief system and we would die for it. Picture that. We would die for it because we need to verify that belief. And so if we are programmed with a belief that we are lazy or you're no good or you're stupid or you're not as pretty as so-and-so or you're whatever it is, pick a memory or a belief that you have about yourself. And I guarantee you, we can pinpoint the exact point in which that belief became rooted and fixed in your subconscious mind. Now, 80% of our lives are operated out of the subconscious mind. Scary, because if you think about that, 80% of our life, that means we're not thinking about, we're just doing. That is so frightening. So when we talk about zombie apocalypse, I'm sorry, but look around you. We're living it. We're living it. Because people are so programmed at this point. Well, let's finish up the ways in which programming happens. Another one is repetition, repetition, repetition. So authority figure repetition is another way that things or beliefs become rooted in your subconscious and they become fixed ideas. Repetition is another one. Ethnic background. So let's say it's related to your ethnicity. Saying things like, well, everybody in our culture does this, or saying, what are you crazy? Like all of us in your culture or in your race do things this way. Okay. There's another way we get programmed. Now there's so many more, guys, and I can list them if you want me to. But here's my point is that this level of programming, specifically from the ages of 6 to 11, is where most of our fixed ideas come. And again, these fixed ideas become beliefs. And when beliefs become rooted, it becomes very hard to, change them. But it's also very hard to admit that our beliefs have been maybe wrong or not serving us or doing us a disservice. And so some of the work that we have to do here is kind of going backwards in order to go forwards. And again, coming back to awareness, this requires a level of extreme and almost hyper vigilant awareness of yourself to recognize what's going on here. What is keeping me in this cycle of either complacency or regression? Because obviously I'm getting something here. And usually not all the time, it comes down to the simple fact of it's verifying and reiterating a belief that you have about yourself, about others, or about the world around you that is keeping you right there. And so, this time specifically in humanity is a massive upheaval and uprooting of a lot of the beliefs that we've had about ourselves, about spirituality, about religion, about government systems, about really the whole structure of this world. And this will bring me to my secret ingredient that is required for all change to be permanent. Well, that's not true. It's not required in order for it to be permanent, but it is required in order for change to exist in the first place. And that missing ingredient, my friends, is hope or faith. Let me break this down. This is so good. So good. I'm so excited. Okay. In order for any change to become a true change, we need hope and faith. Basically the same thing in this context, although in reality, they are two entirely different things. Let's go here. Let's say you're making a change all by yourself, totally independent. This is self-change initiated by and followed through by you and you alone. You have the heart shift, you know exactly what you need to do, and you're even open to, finally, you've reached a point where you're open to that whatever changes occur or obstacles or paths of resistance that are sent your way in order to get you to this change, you're like arms wide open, fine, let's do it, because I know now I've had enough experience to know that this is happening for me and not to me. And I am allowing this flow. It's almost like a river flowing through you, because if that river is flowing through you, what's happening is it's bringing things in. It's also taking things out. It is reciprocal giving and receiving. I'm sorry. Yes, giving and receiving. And so we can reterm the phrase loss with giving. You're allowing things to be taken out of your life through this river exchange, which we call change and life. So you're allowing things to go peacefully, as peaceful as you can, even though you might still feel sadness, you might still feel anger, you might still feel anxiety. You have opened your arms and you've taken your hands off of holding everything together so tightly. Your knuckles are no longer white because you've released your grip, and you're allowing this exchange to happen. Okay, so even if we go down this path and you're like, finally, I know this challenge is happening for me. And even though it's hard, it's bringing me to this change. And I know I'm aware of what I'm building here and all these things. You still need this missing ingredient called hope. Because if you don't have the hope or the faith that what you're doing and the path that you're on and the modalities of change that you're choosing are going to eventually and inevitably bring you to the change that you seek, you will not persist on that path. Let me repeat that. If you do not have the hope that the modalities of change and the path that you're on are bringing you towards the change that you seek, you will not continue in order to see the change. And because you don't have that hope, that faith that what you're doing is going to work, the change won't happen. And here's the double-edged sword. Because if you don't have the hope that what you're doing is going to work, or you're not willing to budge from your path in order to get you there, you have now verified an even worse belief that you are not capable of making the change. And this is what keeps people not only stuck, but miserable. And it's what creates other spirals of discontent and catastrophe and loss in life. Number two, though, is if you're seeking the help of a professional or an expert to help you get to your point of change, that expert or professional or coach or practitioner also needs to have the hope and the faith that what they're doing for you is going to bring you that change. This is so important, you guys. This is so, so, so important, because when we're thinking about choosing somebody to help us, it is so important to use your intuition, get to know them, create a personal connection, no matter how deep or how surface level. But you need to understand that they have the hope and the faith that what they're doing is going to get you towards that change. And they have hope and faith in you that you will follow the program set in place to get you there. This is so important. I can't say this enough. It is so important. I get so many people now asking me about Reiki practitioners, healers, light workers, meditation guides and readers and all of this stuff. And, they come to a Reiki session with me and they say, well, I've had Reiki before and I didn't really feel much, but I'm open to trying. And then we experience an insanely spiritual and physical session together. And they say, I was not expecting that at all. It's weird because when I got Reiki the first time, then the question becomes, well, how can we tell? How do we decipher who's real and who's a fraud, or who's going to get me that change that I'm seeking and who's not? And my answer has to come back to intuition. Use your intuition. It is a God-given ability and gift that every single human being possesses. And go figure, with all of this programming talk, we've been programmed not to listen to our intuition. We've been programmed to listen to someone or something else outside of ourselves to tell us yes or no. And even when people come to me, asking for the answer from me, I'm going to disappoint you by saying, I am not here to give you an answer. I'm not here to give you an answer of a black and white, because your life just is not black and white. A real mentor, a real leader, a real agent for your change is going to ask you more questions and leave more open-ended comments in order to help you discover that change and that answer yourself. That's true change. Anything else is just brainwash, mind control, program, you name it. And I'll again bring up the government for this one, because if we had a true leader in everywhere in the world right now, if we had leaders that cared about change, they were agents for change for the good, they would not be telling us what to do, how to do it, where to do it, who to do it with. That is not a leader at all. And your intuition should be going on overload of alarms going off as soon as you hear someone tell you that you need to do or you should do X, Y, and Z in order to have something as simple as happiness. Happiness is very simple. It's very simple. It's a choice. Happiness is just a choice that we make. And once you make that decision, you'll find ways to change your life in order to get you to happy. Because I can't sit there and tell you, you should just be happy all the time, no matter what's going on in your life. No, that's a bunch of bullshit. I'm just gonna be straight up. It's a bunch of bullshit, because your feelings, your emotions are put in you as signals. And if I'm going to tell you always be happy, then I'm directly overriding your very, very, very intelligent system called the human body, the human mind, and the human spirit, which includes emotions that are signals for you to change. It's so simple. That's what life is. Life is change. Life is growth. Life is joy. But if I'm giving you a pill to take away your sadness, then you're not getting the lesson that sadness is trying to teach you. You're not inducing the change that sadness is trying to get you to change. And so now, not only do you have chronic sadness, You also don't have true happiness because happiness does not come from a pill. You have you have a numbed out mentality, but you're also still living a life that in your terms and in what your soul desires is sad. There is nothing wrong with sadness. There is nothing wrong with anger in and of itself. There is nothing wrong with anxiety. But in the moments that these emotions come up, we should ask ourselves, what is making me sad? Where is this anger coming from? Why am I anxious right now? What's making me anxious right now? And then we should make the changes necessary in a non-angry way, in a non-sad way, in a non-anxious way, because the moment we start to take action, anxiety is going to dissipate anyways. But we should take the action to resolve any emotion that's taking us out of happy or out of love or out of joy. And this is why change is so important of a topic. And this is why I take, an hour of a podcast to talk about the topic of change. And quite frankly, there needs to be probably another full hour on this topic of change because it is so complex. Our needs are our biggest driving force in life, in anything, is our need to avoid pain and seek pleasure. What we've been miscommunicated on is what is pleasure. Are we seeking a temporary pleasure moment? Or are we seeking a life of pleasure? And what is that pleasure? See, to me, pleasure is joy and fulfillment and love. But love is the overarching model and value of life that will lead you to joy and fulfillment anyways. Sometimes in order to get pleasure, we have to do things that we don't want to do in the moment, but we need to do in order to get ourselves closer to the vision of joy and fulfillment. Right? And like I said, have the vision, but allow the space in between there to be fluid, dynamic, and moving, so that as you're moving through this space, you're moving through this circular sphere in which you are held so delicately, so graciously, and so passionately by God, that all things are moving around you. And the more you resist them, the more suffering you feel. The more you can allow, again, back to unattachment, and unattach yourselves to the very specifics of how things have to be, the more joy you find naturally, even in what used to be a perceived problem to you. It is possible to have joy even in a challenging time. I'm currently writing a book on living a peaceful life. I think everybody deep down wants and desires peace. And so I felt called to write this book, and immediately upon embarking and committing to this journey of allowing this book to come through me, being the vessel for that, I opened myself to be a vessel really for this book to be communicated to the world through me. God doesn't have a voice. We are his voice. And so that's the beautiful part, is to be an expression of God, And in order to do that, we have to remove ourselves and say yes to the call. And so when I embarked on this journey, I immediately hit one of the most chaotic, emotionally and physically time of my life. And I, throughout all this growth, I finally came to a point where I understood what joy looks and feels like, even in chaos. I couldn't explain it to anyone, but even though I was in turmoil, internally and externally, I was in turmoil. It was like I felt so blessed. I felt so held exactly where I was supposed to be. I mean, what better way to write a book about peace than to find peace in chaos? And so that's how I know this book is so real, because the principles that are coming through me, it's like as I'm writing them, it's God speaking to me on how to do this right now. How are you going to do this season of chaos in peace? Here you go. Here are your principles. Here are your affirmations for a peaceful life. Life is ever changing. And I think the moment that humanity as a collective and as an individual loses or misplaces this missing ingredient, which I spoke of, called hope and faith, now that's when we can get scared. That's when things get scary. As long as we have hope in something greater on the other side, or the possibility of change out of our current circumstance, as long as we have that hope, we'll be okay. And we truly do have the possibility of change. I read this in a book that I'm currently reading, and it verbatim said that hope is required in the practitioner of any therapy or healing in order to see that change through. And this is what ignited really this Solocast today. And what I want to finish with is kind of a recap. So, and then an encouragement. So first, the recap. There are two types of change external and change that we induce. There are resistances to change, and those usually come in the form of problems, perceived problems, or resistances of ourself. There are barriers to change, and that's programmability. So let's be aware of and be willing to deprogram and create a new program based on where we currently are, and be willing to revisit this programming, because maybe you deprogram what was from childhood or from the government way of living, and you reprogram yourself. And then 5 years, 10 years down the road, you find, well, okay, it's time to do another deprogramming and reprogramming, because that way of life has also changed now. Okay. So it's reprogramming our beliefs, or at the very least, assessing them and deciding if they need to be reprogrammed. And if you are listening to this, I can help you with that. It's very, very simple. It's all about getting in touch with the subconscious mind and getting the conscious mind out of it for a moment, just to do some reprogramming. Okay. Then there are the unattachments that we spoke of. Okay. Have the vision, be willing to be flexible with the approach, unattach yourself to the specifics of what needs to happen in order for you to be happy. And then there's the secret ingredient, hope and faith. You need to have hope and faith in what you're doing is going to work for you, or the practitioner needs to have hope and faith in what they're doing for you is going to produce your change. And together, you both have the faith. I missed this part. You also need to have hope and faith in your practitioner or in your coach or whatever title that we're giving it in this scenario, that what they're doing is going to help you. Hope and faith, hope and faith. And then the ultimate real purpose of life is change. That's the purpose. The purpose of life is change and growth and connection. Change, to me, change and growth are the exact same term. And I encourage you to start using the word grow instead of change, because change is a scary word. Grow has so much possibility. It has so much forward momentum. It has a pull mechanism instead of a push mechanism, which is what we would refer to as change. And whenever there's a push, your human instinct, because we're stubborn and selfish, is to push back. So let's grow. Obstacle comes your way. Oh, great. An opportunity to grow. Because that's all it is. Hey, listen, thanks so much, guys, for always supporting my show. If you have a topic that you would love for me to dive into, please shoot me an email, or you can DM me on social media. You know where to find me. You can email me at sarah@sparkflc.com. A couple of things that we have coming up. I do have a retreat coming up in Arizona on a beautiful over 1 acre property. It is literally a retreat heaven. We are a couple miles away from a castle, an old ancient castle that was built into the red rocks. It's just super cool. It's a ruins. It's going to be 3 days of growth, healing, connection, just beautiful ceremony together. So please reach out if you're of interest in that. It is happening in late October. Stay tuned for the details for that. Also on July 28th, there is a live event. We are having yin yoga and sound bowl meditation with my friend and myself, Nancy Myers, who owns Happy Hour Yoga. So if you're local to the Crystal Lake or Woodstock or Cary or that area, please check out the link that I'll put in the show notes. Sign up for that. And if you're a woman who is seeking greater connection with other women, we need you. We need each other. I'm hosting monthly women's circles. They happen to be scheduled on the full moon. So it doesn't matter if you're comfortable or knowledgeable on the full moon schedule. That does not matter. Just bring yourself, your open heart, your open vessel, and any other woman who you think needs a supportive network of women with a leader who can lead you without my own agenda. I'll be leading these monthly. So all those links you can find in my social media handles. You can also find them in the show notes. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can. And you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.